Okay, we'll go.
And scene.
And scene.
Take 4.
Right.
Teen.
Welcome, Colby Martin, to Sunday Leftovers.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. We always start with a fist bump and end with a fist bump. So it's Sunday Leftovers. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being at church yesterday.
How did that start?
Oh, sorry.
How did the...
Day before yesterday, because this is Tuesday.
Oh, that's embarrassing.
No, right. Actually, we're recording on Monday because you're flying out here in just a little bit, so we wanted to still do it.
It's yesterday for us. It'll be 2 days ago for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tuesday,
It's
but
tomorrow for people in Hawaii.
at noon. Anyway, thank you for being here. I was really fascinated, obviously, by the topic yesterday, the where you went with it, the story of Jacob and Esau and their inheritance and the father and all the things, and then the Jacob wrestling with the unnamed man. Did it say man?
Just visitor, just a stranger in the night.
Unnamed visitor.
Genderless.
Yeah, and because we've always assumed, right, growing up in church, that story's always been told to us that was Jacob wrestled with God,
For sure.
you know, or an angel or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, how did you even? I mean, I guess you'd probably have to recap, but there was a few points you made as to why you felt like he was just wrestling with himself.
Yeah, so if you haven't, go back and check out the message, so I don't give the whole thing
spoiler
here.
alert.
Right. But I will alert to the spoils for just a quick second. So, I don't want to take away at all from anyone who's ever. Do I look at the camera or you?
Me,
Kinda
both.
Okay.
Sure.
All right.
I'll look at the camera.
Look at myself. I don't want to take away from anyone who's ever found meaning out of that story being Jacob wrestling with God or with the angel of the Lord, because part of what I find so beautiful, actually I'll tangent really quick, is part of where I think the Christian tradition has lost connection to its Jewish roots, is that, as I understand it, within Jewish spiritual tradition, they would come at a sacred piece of text or a story, and they would have an assumption that it's got multiple meanings, multiple ways to think about it, multiple interpretations. I don't know if that's a term they would use, but the leaf blowers are starting to get a little bit closer here. How are we doing?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, we're good? All right. But within Christianity, we have sort of squished the plurality of meaning out of sacred text into one. Like, this only means one thing.
Right.
And so, how I grew up is there was one correct way to think about Genesis 32.
Right.
And the goal is to figure out, who did Jacob wrestle with?
Right.
Well, first of all, maybe another tangent. The assumption is this is a story that really happened.
Right. Yep.
And
it doesn't have to be factual to be true.
This is 100%, right? So, was there actually even a set of twin brothers named Jacob and Esau? My money's on no. But I don't think that really matters insofar as how is this story, why has it been passed along for so many years? What does it mean? So anyway, did Jacob actually wrestle with someone in the middle of the night? Probably not. So therefore, I think we get to have some play with the text.
Right.
We get to have some where we turn it and we let it sort of. So this is to answer your question. What I did a couple years ago is I was sitting with the stories. I was letting it read me. I was letting the text, instead of me reading the text, I was letting the text read me. And I realized, as I was looking at this story, this is often what it's like for me when I am wrestling with myself.
Right.
More specifically, wrestling with old versions of myself. And so as I look at this story, and this is what I talk about in the message, is that I think Jacob, on the night before he's ready to meet his brother for the first time in 20 years, he's wrestling with an old version of himself who's resenting the fact that Jacob's ready to grow. Yeah. He's ready to change. He's ready to be someone different than the person he's always been.
We see that.
Yeah.
And you pointed that out as well, too. Yeah. So that's great. Yeah, the rabbi, we had the rabbi 6 months ago, Caesar, I think. We had the rabbi in, and he talked about scripture in that same way.
Okay.
Talking about, season 1, season 2, the Old Testament, the New Testament.
Nice.
And he has that midrashing tradition where
no, there's like a big old tractor coming.
What are we doing? Okay.
Another edition of Weird and Wild Stuff with Tray and Colby. Oh wait, are we back on?
No.
Yeah, that's good.
Are we?
Yeah, we are.
Okay. You probably can't tell. We had a quick edit over some yard work.
Seamless, baby. Seamless.
Yeah. What were we talking about?
You were talking about your rabbi friend who was also sharing about the midrash, the approach to
and scripture is not the end. It's not necessarily the ending point, or that was his point, was scripture for them is not the ending point, it's the beginning. It starts a conversation, it doesn't end a conversation. And we, as a Southern Baptist growing up, it was a conversation ending.
Absolutely.
If you diverted anywhere from that, it was over.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Anyway, I really appreciate the kind of the leaning into that and making us look at that text from another angle. And we do that at A&C a lot. So, dude, it was perfect. It's perfect.
I'm glad.
I mean,
because you can't undo it. It happened.
Right. I think it was all right. Anyway, nobody complained. Not too many people. It was good though. We had some folks coming in from different parts of town and
that was fun.
Different parts of the state.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed that too. So that's good. So you told me that is basically based on chapter 8 in The Shift, which is your latest book. Tell us a little bit about The Shift and what that means.
Yeah. So for the last 10 years, I've been pastoring in progressive Christian spaces, like post-evangelical spaces.
Right.
And in addition to reflecting on my own journey of leaving conservative evangelicalism and moving towards something more progressive, I've also now been in a relationship with and helped pastored and walked alongside a lot of people that have done this same shift, right? This is what I'm calling the shift, moving from conservative to progressive Christianity. And so my book, The Shift, is my attempt to create a kind of survival guide for people who are in the middle of this journey, right? A lot of people have been talking about deconstruction, reconstruction over the last few years, and that's great. Not necessarily terms that I use or resonate with.
Right.
So this isn't a book about deconstruction. This is a book about you've already had the phenomenon where you have left or sometimes been kicked out of your more conservative communities, and now you are trying to figure out, how do I maintain a connection to my Christian heritage, which isn't true for everybody. Some people are ready to just be done with it and walk away. And
we
bless that. We understand that. It makes sense.
Our friend Stan Mitchell is very generous with his upbringing and his, even though it was a complete 180 from where he is now.
Yeah.
He's very generous with it. I mean, it brings us to a point. They're all foundational. They're building blocks. And so I appreciate that you I mean, obviously you respect those that have to cut ties, but also respect people that just go, that was a building block for me.
Yeah. And so The Shift is an attempt to say, as you go in this journey, as you're moving in this transformation of your faith, if you haven't already, you're probably going to run into some pretty typical obstacles.
Right.
So I talk about the first couple chapters are really an effort to reframe faith. We often think of faith as a synonym for the things that I believe.
Right.
So my faith equals what I believe. And so when people have this experience where they start changing their beliefs, leaving some beliefs behind, adopting new beliefs, they end up thinking to themselves, God, what happened to my faith? Or I think I lost my faith.
Or
my
a
faith
crisis.
just, something like that. And really, for me, it's like, no. Your faith is about a verb. It's a way of orienting yourself, and it's a posture of openness. So when you start changing your beliefs, that's actually your faith doing what it's supposed to do.
Progressing? Maybe?
Yeah, and then in the middle section of the book is about some of the theological obstacles that people face. How do I think and talk about God? What do I do with the Bible?
Right.
Jesus is kind of a big one, because Jesus was a pretty central piece of Christianity. I don't know if you know this, Trey. And so when we start to shift and audit how we think about Jesus, where does that leave us? And then the church. There's a whole chapter on, I think the title's called, I can't stand church. Do you know one in my city I could try? Because that's the kind of emails that we get all the time, right?
All the time.
I'm so over church, but also, do you know one in
like yours,
like Southern Kentucky that I could try? And then the latter half, and this is where Sunday's talk came out of, the latter portion of the book is about some of the internal obstacles that we face. What do we do when our own self resists growth? What do we do with our friends and family who have concern over our growth? How do we relate to them? How do we move forward in this trajectory of growth, anticipating that we're different than we were 5 years ago? Y'all, you're going to be different 5 years from now than you are here.
Absolutely.
So how do we create a condition where we're prepared for that, and we see that as a beautiful thing, not something to be afraid of?
That's good.
The shift.
I would like to say I've read all that,
We can wait. Pause it. We can pause it so he can go finish. Yeah.
Go ready. I don't even have one. You ran out yesterday.
That's true. We sold out.
You
Thank
sold
you.
out.
Thanks, ANC.
That's a good thing. No, that's great. That's really good. Yeah, I see it as a different move from the deconstruction reconstruction, but I also see that there are some, probably they run tangent. They run together a lot of times.
Sure.
As you deconstruct, reconstruct, it takes you to a different space.
Yeah.
Either physically and or spiritually. Yeah. So that's good. Survival guide.
Yeah.
You said it actually has a study guide in the back now or something? Or?
No, that's Unclobber.
Oh,
the new edition of
mind.
Unclobber. No, you're fine. You can fix that in post. That's Unclobber. The new edition has a study guide now for groups to do it, and it's got a preaching guide for preachers that want to do it. But
that's how. So that's how we found you.
Yeah.
That's when I added you as a friend 8 years ago. And you just now accepted
we
my
found out
friendship
this
today.
morning that it had been sitting in my friend request inbox
for 8 years.
A long time.
That's only, it's okay.
That was the text I woke up to this morning. Is you? I won't read it
berating you
because it's in SFW, but it was not safe for work.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, but that's how we found you. Is that book Unclobber? Maybe just real quickly, for those that don't know, tell us about that work and where that's taken you.
Yeah. So. In 2011, I was working at a large evangelical church outside of Phoenix. I'd been there for 5 years. And I had, over the course of the previous 3 years or so, audited my beliefs. I'd been on this kind of disorientation, this process of figuring out, what do I believe? And do I want to continue believing all the things that I believed growing up as a Baptist / evangelical? And, a number of these pieces I threw out. Some of them I changed a little bit and kept on to, but one of them was the topic of those who identify as LGBTQ and sort of what does the Bible say and not say about the topic of homosexuality. And like many of us, I grew up just assuming that the Bible's clear.
Absolutely.
That to be gay is a sin and marriage is one man, one woman. And so in about 2009 or 10, I finally decided I'm going to study this matter once and for all, because I was tired of feeling out of alignment, where my head was firmly entrenched in the traditional stance, but my heart had this sense of
it's not right.
There's something off about that. Even if it is wrong or sin, like why is the church treating people like this?
Yeah.
So I finally took some time to study it for myself, all the things, right? The historical context, cultural context, the textual context within the Bible itself. And I came out on the other side of that, firmly convinced that we, the church, had gotten this topic wrong. And that the Bible does not provide justification to discriminate against those who identify as LGBTQ. In 2011, Obama signed the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which was the military ban. And I posted on my Facebook 6 words, "I'm glad this day finally came." And that led to a stream of people from our church sort of freaking out that I was now a part of the gay agenda, which I'm still waiting for my copy. They haven't sent it to me yet.
Right.
Freaking out that our church is now pro-homosexual. And that led to an emergency board meeting a couple days later where I was forced to give an account for my theology on sexuality. And that led to me then being fired 2 days after that. And so out of that experience, my first book, Unclobber, half the book is me telling that journey of being born, raised Baptist evangelical, sort of studying the topic, getting fired, and then starting our own church in San Diego. And then the other half of the book engages with the clobber passages, which is the word given sometimes to the 6 verses in the Bible that have been used for discrimination, and showing how you don't have to ignore these, you don't have to sidestep them, you can go right into the heart of these things and discover on the other side of them actually a faith and a God that is more loving, more expansive, more inclusive, and not anti-LGBTQ.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, that's to this day still the number one book we'll recommend when people come to us and ask us theologically, how did you get there?
Yeah.
We'll read this first, and then we'll go into more if more's needed. And it typically is. It's not I don't think it's a process for a lot of people. And for me, and for you, it took some time. For me, it took some time. Probably a lot longer than the LGBTQ community would hope for, but people are in a different space, and so I love this as a tool that's still out there, still in print, and still updated with study guides.
Hey.
So there you go. I guess that's about it.
Okay.
Thanks for being in Austin. Now we're in Buda, sitting outside, water to wine and mud bugs, and Buta's an awesome town, and we just are glad to have you here because we rode over on a golf cart, and things are grand.
I love it.
And we'll have you back soon, my friend.
Yeah. Wait, the fist bump ends it, right?
Ends it and begins it.
Well, what if I'm not ready to end it?
All
What if
right,
I
go
got,
ahead.
I got 4 more points I wanted to bring up.
Do it.
So no, I'm
We
just
got
kidding.
time.
I'm just kidding. No, for reals. Thank you. I love you.
fun.
I love your community. Someone yesterday asked when I was going to come back, and I turned to you and I said, Trey, they want to know when I'm going to come back, and you said September. So that's now on the
counting
record.
on that?
It's now on the record.
Yeah, okay. All right,
I
we'll
booked
work on
out.
it. I actually texted Jason, who is in Spain right now. I texted Jason last night, or he actually asked, how did it go? Told him it went great. And I said, he sold out of his books. We bought 8 of them. If you needed one, we've got some unclobber in the office. And, but, I don't know. What was that finger for, Caesar? Are we done?
I don't know.
Okay. Quickly. That's it. We're done. It's only leftovers. I lost my train